Well, hello and welcome to another National Bee Supplies video. And today I get to do some beekeeping because we've come to pick up a nuke of bees. Obviously this can be an exciting time for a new beekeeper, but also tinged with a bit of trepidation. Hopefully most of you will have been on some sort of beginner's course and at least looked in a hive before. But don't worry if you haven't, because we're going to take you through it step by step, show you what happens when you come to pick up the nuke, how to transport it, and ultimately, of course, how to transfer the bees into your hive. So let's go in the shop and get our bees. Morning, Becky.
Good morning.
So I'm assuming these are going to be our bees then for our little demonstration today.
They are indeed.
Becky or another member of the team will be on hand to answer any of your questions you might have when you come to pick your bees up. They also give you an information sheet, and obviously there's plenty of products in the shop if you're short of them, if you need to buy anything. In terms of handling the nuke, make sure that when you put your fingers on, you keep them to the edge. You don't want to put them over any of the screen. You might trap one of the bees' legs and in the panic they can turn around and sting you, so make sure you keep them to the side. As you can see, the nuke box has got a piece of mesh at the front here which is stapled in place, and then the lid is screwed on at each end, so it's solid. There's no bees that are going to get out of this. You're perfectly fine. Right, if that's all right with you, we'll go and put them in the car then.
Yeah, have fun.
Okay. Okay, so now we've got our bees. It's very important when you load them in the car that you have the frames pointing in this direction. We don't want them swinging backwards and forwards when we brake or accelerate. As you can see, I've put some boxes in here just to try and brace it a bit. You could use some cushions or a duvet. In the past, people have even used their spare tyre just to stop it from moving around in the boot. We want to try and keep the bees cool, so whether that means opening your window or whatever. I've also brought a water bottle so that I can spray them, give them a little drink. That'll help to regulate their temperature. Please, please don't leave them unattended inside your car. It won't take long for this car to heat up and cook them, and then you'll have no bees left. So if you do have to stop on the way home, have somebody stay with the car, open the boot, whatever you need to do. I brought some syrup and a feeder so that when we get over to the hive, we'll be able to feed the nuke once it's gone into the brood chamber. Right, so we'll pop these in the boxes, help to stabilise it a bit more. And we'll get on our way. Okay, so we've made it to our destination now, and thanks must go to our cameraman for letting us borrow his garden. We've just put this hive here for the filming processes because the bees aren't staying. But I'd recommend that you take a bit of time just to figure out where you want to put your bees before you arrive with the nuke. You don't want to be panicking trying to decide on the day when you turn up with your box of bees. You can read plenty online about how it's best to have the hive facing the early morning sun and keeping it out of the northerly winds. But bees are pretty adaptive really. They'll get on with it wherever you put them. So you might want to think of it more in terms of your own comfort, not having the flight path going across your garden paths, or not having it somewhere where you can't mow the grass because it's in the way, that sort of thing. But get this decided before you go to transfer the bees. So we've got the whole hive here, but we're not going to need it all. To start with, we're just going to need the floor and the roof, so we're going to cut to that now. Right, well, as you can see, I've now taken the extra lifts and the brood chamber and everything away, and I've placed our nucleus on the floor in the direction that it wants to fly. I've used the two entrance slides at the back here just to level the box up a bit, and the next job is going to be just simply to prise the front entrance off so the bees can come out and start orientating to the box, and we'll just put the roof back on top of it. Right, so now we're going to take these staples out here to release the bees. Now it's quite tricky to prise in here with the hive tool to do that, so if you actually just go behind the mesh instead and use that, then you can take the staples out quite easily. Obviously they are going to want to come out. There we go. The bees are now released. They'll start coming out of there now and orientating their flights, and we can put the roof on the nuke box and back away. So that's the first stage done. We need to leave that now for at least a couple of hours so the bees can start to learn where they live before we even think about transferring them into the hive. If it's late in the day or if you're pushed for time, they'll be fine to sit like that overnight until the next day, and then you can do it at your leisure. So we'll come back when we're ready and transfer the nuke into the brood chamber. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied now. These bees are orientated to this box. There's pollen coming in, they seem quite happy. So time has come to put them into the hive. One thing I should have mentioned before is if you are going to leave them overnight, it's probably a good idea to put the cover board on top of the nuke box underneath and then the roof on top, so that you don't get the draft coming up into that mesh all over through the evening. Okay, so the first thing we've got to do is take the lid away, and then we'll unscrew the top of the nuke box so that we can lift it off. I'm going to move the nuke box away to the back, put the brood chamber into place, and then we'll probably cut to a close-up of taking the frames out, checking them and putting them into the brood chamber. Right, there's the brood chamber in place then, ready to receive the bees. And I'm going to take the middle, say 6 frames out. This is a 5 frame nuke, but I'm going to have a bit of space then to put the bees into there nice and easily. Okay, so I'm just going to carefully lift the lid off here. Just check the queen's not on that, but that's unlikely, she'll be on there. As you can see, I have lit the smoker, but I'm going to try and not use it because I don't really want to upset them. So I'm going to try and find the queen as she goes in. Now, it's not imperative that we find the queen. If we can see like young larvae, preferably eggs, we know she was there at least sort of 3 days ago, we can check for her on our first inspection. What you don't want to do is to spend ages now going backwards and forwards through all the frames, desperately trying to find the queen. They haven't had that long to settle down yet. We don't want to upset them like that. You're better off to leave it till later on. So what I'm going to do is push the frames over to that side first, just gently, and then bring this one back nice and gently, and lift it out. Trying to keep the bees either over the box or over the hive. Now that's just food. I'm going to make sure that I keep these frames in the same order as they go into the box. The colony is like a rugby ball shaped, and we don't want to disrupt that and end up with the brood separated by a frame of food. So we're going to follow the order that's in here. So that frame has loads of eggs and young larvae all over it. So even if we don't see her, we know the queen's in here. We don't want any sudden movements or bouncing them about. That's what they don't like. Oh yes, lovely frame of brood there. Oh, and we've been lucky because there's the queen. Let's see if I can get a shot of her on the camera with the white dot. Lovely looking queen. So we're happy she's in the box now. If you find the bees do get a bit agitated, you can give them a tiny bit of smoke. You could even spray them with the water in your water bottle if you need to. And these are being fine. It's a lovely day. Right, pull these up. And we'll put the other frame back in. So you can run your WBC chamber either with 11 frames in, or some people prefer to have 10 and then a dummy board. Whenever you leave these Hopman frames, it's always a good idea to push them all up together and then come back slightly off this wall, so that now we've got the frames all pushed together in the middle like that. People run into trouble when they leave spaces, because the bees will fill all this space all full of propolis, and then you'll never get the first frame out. Okay, this is going to be a bit messy, but we're just going to knock these ones into the top of the box now. If I hadn't found the queen, I'd be having a good look in there as well. Cover board. And then I've got a piece of plywood here just to cover that one hole there. And then I'm going to put the feeder on that hole. So feeder goes on there. And then we can rebuild the hive, and they're all nicely in now. I probably wouldn't feed it until later on in the afternoon into the evening. They're not a very large colony. We don't want other bees coming over and trying to rob them. So if we do it last thing in the day, they'll have a chance then to deal with the syrup overnight, and any spillages won't matter so much. If you do get a spillage, it can be an idea to come and wipe it up, because we don't want to encourage anything to come and attack these. So that's your bees installed in the hive then. Hopefully you know how the hive stacks up back together again. We weren't going to bore you with that bit. They'll take a while now to orientate to this box now, because obviously they've been used to going for this roof. Bee was down here before, so you might find some bees on the front looking for the entrance, but they'll soon work it out. I wouldn't go near this hive now again for at least a week to 10 days, weather dependent. Beginners do tend to want to go in and just keep looking about and looking about. They're excited, it's understandable, but we've seen the queen, we know the colony's in good shape. I would just keep feeding it, topping up the feeder as and when they need to. The idea of the syrup in this hive really is to get them to turn the syrup into foundation and draw all those frames out in the brood chamber. Once they get onto the last frame, then you can look to add your queen excluder and a super. And with everything being well, you should get some honey off this hive this year. Right, that's it. I would pull up a chair, sit back and just watch the bees going in and out of their new home.